Right guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for watching. This is about the 8th attempt at filming a video because my GoPro for some reason is telling me I've got a low battery on every single battery I put in the damn thing. So hopefully this one actually stays recording and I'm going to track it here to make sure it bloody does. Anyway, getting back onto the subject of today's video, I think we're going to discuss exhaust systems and the legality, MOT wise, what they're like, you know, MOT, how you get a bike for an MOT, what's the law. I'm not going to quote the law too much here because I don't know it. I'm not an expert in that, but oh my god, what is that? Gross. But anyway, we're going to talk about it a little bit because it's a little bit confusing, if I'm honest. Like, I looked it up the other day and I was completely confused by it. So if that interests you, stick around. I'm going to roll the intro and I'll see you afterwards. Well, I always seem to choose a nice bit to pull over. Someone had a good time here. To start with, every bike on the road must have an exhaust which complies with the current Euro emissions. So, whatever your bike was released with, it must comply with that. If you modify that in any way to make it louder or modify it in a way that it doesn't work as it should, it's technically illegal. If you buy an aftermarket exhaust, that exhaust must be stamped with the British standard. I think there's another standard that it should be stamped with, but I think there's 2 stamps. And it has to be stamped on here so you know it complies with the law and the regulations. If you remove that stamp, it is illegal. Also, when you have a bike from the factory must supply that bike exhaust with the part number of the exhaust on it. For some reason, I don't know why that's the law, but it is. Now, if you buy an exhaust and it has a stamp on it saying for race use only, you guessed it, it's probably illegal to use on the road. That being said, this is where it gets a little bit confusing, for me anyway. Oh, there's tissues over there, probably for the same person that was using that. Anyway, now if you have an exhaust system, like this bike here, for example, you remove the catalytic converter, you put a legal silencer on that bike as well, stamps on it and everything. If you take that to an MOT centre, it will pass, because the MOT, in the MOT legislation, is that the right word? In the MOT rules and regulations, whatever, it doesn't have to meet any sort of emissions laws. It's not the same as a car, which is quite interesting. It also says in the old rule book that if you modify your exhaust to make it any louder than it was type approved, then it is illegal. So bear that in mind when you next buy an exhaust. Now, I'm personally quite a big fan of louder bikes. Not too loud, but fairly loud. I don't like it deafening, but I want to be heard coming. Hence why mine's got a decat and an end can. Now, this end can, take my word for it, has a stamp on it, obviously, because it's totally legal. But if it didn't, I would be breaking the law. I'm not going to show you the stamp because it's hard to film. I want to listen to it. This bike sounds amazing. Oh yeah. Now, the MOT tester can say to you, you've modified this in a way which is louder than it came from the factory, and therefore I'm going to fail you on the MOT. And if they say that, you know, they're within their right to say it if you have modified that exhaust. However, most of them don't. I don't know about your experience, but with my experience, the MOT testers for motorcycles, they aren't bell ends, they actually are alright, and they understand, you know, people like to modify. I think everyone, pretty much like 90% of people, modify their motorcycle in one way or another, and 9 times out of 10 they go for the exhaust first for some reason, because everyone likes to listen to a sick bike. Like I do. Oh, sounds beautiful. I love it. Now, if you get pulled over, greasy, if you get pulled over on the road, let's say, I don't know, you've had a complaint, the police are following it up, and they say your bike's too loud. You say, well, I've only got an end can on it. If that bike emits more than let's say, I think the general rule is 80 decibels. However, they will take into consideration the CC of the motorcycle. So up to a maximum of 89 decibels, I believe. Don't quote me on this, but you'll feel free to do your own research. But I believe it's 89 decibels. And if you go over that, you can get in trouble with the law. Yeah. A bit of a grey area here is if you buy an exhaust system that is type approved and it goes over 80 decibels or over 89 decibels, I'm guessing that you can't buy one that does that. I don't really know. I'm guessing they're made for a bike without, with a catalytic converter, because that's where most of the restriction comes from. It's a bit confusing, guys. I'm a little bit confused. I'm not sure about you. I tried to do a bit of reading before this, but in all honesty, I just think I've made myself more confused. But I'm a big fan of the loud exhaust, and I do think, as much as there is an element of enjoyment of having a loud exhaust, there's an element of safety in there as well, because before, when I've had a quiet bike, you're filtering through traffic, people never move out my way unless I've got the hazards on and, bright light. But when I'm on my MT10, which is quite a loud bike, people hear me, they move, and it's it's good. They're aware that I'm there. I'm raising other drivers' awareness. And let's be honest, there's a lot of drivers out there who are so fucking unaware, it's unbelievable. I think we all have frustrations when we're riding, especially when you're riding. It seems to be, your sense of aggravation seems to be heightened because your safety's you're more in danger than you are in a car. And you get more angry when people are not moving out your way, or not moving out your way, but when people aren't aware of you and they're not there, they pull out on you and stuff like that. The last video was a perfect example that I released of someone pulling out on me, and I absolutely nail the fucking red line so they know I'm there. That woman knew I was there. If you haven't seen that video, yeah, I just get pulled out. But she knew I was there once I revved that engine. I've had people before pull out of me and I've revved my bike and they've covered their ears mid-driving. I'm like, what are you doing? Pheasant, suicidal pheasant, dangerous bird. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think. What is your experience with like MOTs? Have you ever had anything that's a bit, annoyed you with an MOT? Or how do you, when you put your bike through an MOT, do you have a decat? Is it loud? Do you have a race pipe? Leave a comment down below as to what your experience is. I'd be interested to know. I personally have a decat Pipeworks exhaust with a stamp, but it has no problems in MOTs. Now MOT testers will sometimes put an advisory on your MOT. Wow, this road is green, there's moss growing in the road. They will put a advisory on your MOT certificate just to say that, yeah, the exhaust is loud. And it's just to protect themselves. So if you get that and you've got an illegal exhaust on your bike, then take it as a win. It's a cold, slimy day, and I'm glad that my GoPro has still got recording, because I don't want to film the same thing third time. For a nice country walk where they're getting a bit of cross-plane countryside sound, I'd love to hear what they can hear. So yeah, but in my experience, police aren't too bad. When I was 16, 17 on my 50cc and my 125, I think I counted one year, I got pulled over 7 times in a year. I don't know why. There was nothing majorly wrong with either of my bikes. My 50 had an exhaust system. It wasn't particularly ridiculously loud. It was just, a little 50cc step-through bike. It sounded a bit like a Wasp, but it wasn't nothing wrong with it per se. I had a certificate because it had a little washer in the exhaust to say it was restricted. The flow was restricted. Obviously I hammered that right out. But yeah, I never had a problem with police. When they pulled me over, they never tested the note of my exhaust, how loud it actually was. I feel like police, obviously there are some that are okay, some that are not okay, and some that are, but I feel like the majority of police are generally not dicks when it comes to bike exhausts. They know that we fiddle with our exhausts. There is an element of safety to it. I think they understand that. As long as you're not rude to them, you generally get away with it. But yeah, so yeah, that's a little bit of a rant really today, guys. On another quite good note, I wanted to say an extreme thank you very much for if you've subbed lately, really appreciate it. The channel's doing well, as I said in the last video. Hope that the next video upload I'll have reached 1,000 subscribers. So I've gone past 1,000. I think it's nearly 1,050 now. So thank you so much for helping me get there. I really appreciate it. I really love the interaction I'm getting with everyone. It's really cool to meet everyone new and have a chat about bikes in general, especially when it's winter. And yeah, so I know some of you messaged me saying at least you're out but I'm staying in. So yeah, get out, it's not too bad. And yeah, I've got a new bike on the horizon, not to replace this one, just to replace the moped that I've ridden, I think once or twice. I've done 150 miles on that BMW moped, and it seemed to be tucked away ever since, but it's quite fun, but you know. Anyway guys, thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Ciao for now.